BC. It's just crazy. I think I've known him a little longer than I've known you, but then we ended up touring together very early in our careers.
Yeah, that was my first tour, actually.
What? And that was
96.
That was Shantae or
Kenny?
Kenny. You were Kenny, okay? Because we had Shantae before. She opened for us. Did you know that?
I did not know that, and I sang with both of them before they met.
Whoa. Okay. See, it gets to be really, really great. I haven't had Kenny on the show yet or Shantae, but, so in the Barry White tour 1995, Shantae was our opening act. And Joel Scott was playing keys, I think, for her then. And Joel, did you ever know Joel?
I think so. That name sounds so familiar.
So this is the funny thing about Joel. His mother was my choir director in New Rochelle, New York.
Get out of here.
And I never met him because she would go, oh yeah, I have a son, but he lives in California. Right? All my life. I never met this man. And then one day on the tour, I go, wait, Joel Scott. You're Ann Scott's son from New Rochelle, New York.
That's crazy.
Crazy. He would never go home.
Wow.
So, and then the following year, I think 96 was when you guys came on. Kenny, who's, just been so dear all these years as you have. And,
Wow.
So that was like one of your first major tours.
Yeah, that was
first
major tour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's crazy. And look at you. I mean, you've been doing so much. Like you're like the it girl.
Oh, thank you, Charyn.
Always in sessions, always working.
Just trying to keep my boat afloat. But the funny thing about that gig with Kenny, I was living in New York. I was working at Henry Bendel as an assistant manager.
Henry Bendel?
Yes.
Wasn't that like a clothing
fabulous boutique on Fifth Avenue? Yes. That I had a job.
Oh wow.
And that tour paid exactly what I made per week at that job. So when that opportunity came up, I was like, yeah, bye-bye. I'm out. I packed. I'd never been on a tour.
Wow.
Wasn't sure what to take. I just knew I had to wear black. I had everything from black tie to the beach. I was like, whatever happens, I'll be dressed for it.
You like, I just got to wear black every night.
Yep. They were like, just have a black dress or whatever.
That was easy. I used to love watching Kenny perform.
He's so good.
He's
so good.
Yes. And he's just so sweet.
Yes.
I remember, we were in Boston and we were just walking. Were you with us? We were walking through the Boston Commons and just, just kind of chatting, just like we're all hanging out in Boston. And it was so much fun. I can't remember what venue we were playing. Probably it had to be a big one.
Right. Well, you know what? I think Boston, for some reason, I recall that gig being outside. Like on the water. Is there some kind of
you know what? You're right.
There?
You are so right. It was outside. It was on the water. And we went to Legal Seafood for dinner afterwards. That's crazy because we're going back, 29 years ago? That's so crazy.
That is crazy.
I remember, and it's like bits and pieces sometimes will come back to me.
Yeah.
But I just, I have some images that I just remember so clearly. And one of them was, walking with Kenny and I can't remember who else, a couple of people from the band. And we're just kind of casually walking through the Boston Commons. Wow. But you're right. We were on the water that evening. We were, definitely outside. And I remember now the dinner that we had.
I think I went to Legal Seafood at some point too.
Right.
I mean, at that time period, you didn't go to Boston and not go there.
Right.
I'm sure there's some other restaurants that you shouldn't have missed at that point. But yeah, you have. That
was like when you're in Memphis, you would go to the Rendezvous.
Oh, I haven't been. To
you haven't been
Rendezvous.
Okay, girl, it ain't. They're always like, oh, you got to go to the Rendezvous, and you're like, really? When you get there, girl, you be like, really?
Oh.
It's like, it's not one of those places where I don't want to trash the Rendezvous, but I did hear that they used to be like really, really good at one point, and they had kind of like changed hands, so the quality is not the same.
Got it.
So maybe I just caught them at the change.
It happens.
It happens, but you just go and you just have a good time. But we have fun on tour.
We had so much fun. I thought it was just the most amazing thing ever. I had no idea what a tour was like. I had never seen the inside of a tour bus. None of that. And I was like, they gave me the per diem. Somebody was trying to explain. I was like, what? What is this?
You're like, you're giving me money?
Right. Okay. I'll take it. I will take it. It was the best thing ever.
You're like, wait, I get paid and you give me cash to eat?
Right. Which they should.
Well, yeah,
That's
they
what's
should.
supposed to happen.
Right. But it's like, my job didn't do this, but yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I was visiting my friends all over the country and my family all over the country. I was like, this is the life. What? I was kind of sad when it was over.
Wow.
It was 6 weeks, but it was 6 weeks that completely
was it only 6
changed
weeks?
my life. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't remember, because we had you guys, and then later we toured with Earth, Wind & Fire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was fun too. We didn't have a lot of opening acts.
Okay.
But we kind of traded. We traded with Earth, Wind & Fire. They would open, and sometimes we would open.
Okay.
So
you were like co-headlining.
Yeah, co-headlining, because it's like they're two big acts at that point, so you can't just,
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're doing this because it's like the life and times of a traveling musician.
Yeah. I love being on the road, staying in hotels. You get to
Wasn't
eat
it
at
fun?
all these great restaurants. I'm telling you,
The shopping.
I did too much of that. I don't even
Oh,
wanna
girl,
talk
I was
about
sending
that.
boxes home. I was sending boxes home.
I didn't do that.
I did,
But I probably came pretty close.
I shopped a little too much.
That was the days before your luggage being really heavy was an issue. It was not
Right.
an issue. So
Right.
to this day, I'm not a light packer. I don't know her.
And I'm trying to remember because when we did the tour buses, where did it originate? Were we originating in Los Angeles? I can't remember. I can't quite remember.
I don't think so.
I think we flew like to Florida or Atlanta or something.
Okay. We rehearsed in New York. That stands out in my mind because I was living in New York.
Right.
And that was where I met everybody for the first time. But I think our first show was in somewhere like Cleveland or Columbus or somewhere in Ohio. Somewhere in Ohio. It was somewhere I had never been.
Okay.
But it wasn't like a big city.
Right.
It was city, it was a city, but it wasn't, it wasn't LA. It wasn't Chicago. I'm from Chicago. I would have remembered that.
Right. It was Tangi was Tangi with you on the tour? No. That was Shantae. Tangi was on Shantae's tour. There was another singer named Tangi on Shantae's tour. And she was from Chicago.
Oh, wow.
That's why I thought that you guys were working together, because she was from Chicago. But I remember going to Chicago. I remember the Fox Theater.
The Fox is in Detroit.
No, there was a Fox.
There's a Fox.
Oh, yeah. Wait, you're right. There was a Fox in Detroit, but there were several Fox theaters.
There's several Fox theaters.
Yeah, you're right. The Fox was Detroit. Where are we going in Chicago?
Girl, I don't know. We could have been at
We've been in
Airy
so many
Crown.
places.
I don't know.
You know what? I have a lot of the tour books.
I still have mine somewhere.
I have a lot of the tour books. So, so getting up to this point, what was that like for you? Because, you're living in New York. You're like, I want to pursue my dream of being a singer.
It was...
But you really did it.
It was a bizarro type of world because I went to Howard. I was not a fine arts major, but I was in the fine arts building all the time. I was in a band. Shout out to Impulse. We had gigs on gigs on gigs. We gigged around town. We played clubs, wedding receptions, outdoor festivals, blah, 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 all kinds of stuff. And then I also did like happy hour at Tacoma Station, had like a standing gig and a standing gig somewhere else. I was singing all the time. Kenny and I kind of crossed paths because he was in a band called Mannequin at the time, and they had a song that was a hit that was an answer to Mercedes Pebbles Mercedes Boy. Oh, I said that just so backwards. Anyway, Pebbles Mercedes Boy. They had an answer to that song, and it was a hit. So everybody knew Kenny, everybody knew Mannequin, and our paths kind of crossed. So fast forward some years later, his record comes out, and I knew his manager, and they asked me to sing background with him for this tour. And I was like, yeah. I was like, what is it? You know, how much is it pay? And when does it leave? They told me. I was like, done.
Like, done.
Don't threaten me with a good time. But yeah, I had a job. I had multiple jobs.
Ooh.
I went to New York thinking, okay, you know, I'm going to, you know, try to get some gigs or do whatever. I was at the time working for what was the largest importer of African fabric in the country.
Wow.
It was owned by a Senegalese man. Mm-hmm. Almost everybody there was from Senegal. So they would have meetings and they would speak Wolof, French, and English just interchangeably. Right. I think they spoke sentences that included all three languages.
Because this is like early 90s.
Yeah. And then they would look at me and be like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know because I don't know what you're saying.
But anyway, not to go down that whole rabbit hole, but I had a job. I wasn't getting any gigs. I think I like sang a demo for somebody, and but a friend of mine from Chicago, Eric Miller, East Move, he's a DJ, and when we were in high school, you know, he was writing songs and we were singing in his mom's basement, recording songs and all that stuff. And he had done a remix for a song that In Excess did with Ray Charles, and they needed one background singer, and he referred me. So I called in sick. So I could go be on the David Letterman show. Ooh. Hoping my boss would not see the show. I didn't think about that until after. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But you know, it was, and I was like, okay, like this could happen. And then the situation with Kenny happened. The whole band lived in LA, and they were like, you need to move to LA. That's where all the work is. And I was like, okay. And then I started dating Tim, who's now my husband.
I remember that. And, I remember when y'all started dating.
And like, oh, they cute. Look at that. And here I am.
Right. And here you are. You know, and it was interesting as I moved to LA in 91. So just slightly before you. And it was the same thing. I was, you know, in New York and doing the circuit there, the Cellar, McKell's, Nell's, all those places.
Yeah.
I think I did some stuff at the Garage because I was in a band that had like a little kind of dance song. And you know, it wasn't a real gig at the Garage. It wasn't like, because it was more like a track date.
Yeah.
But I did weddings, you know, Jerry Ross music and all these different Michael Walters and all these different, you know, wedding bands. And, but that was the thing. It was like, we're gonna, hey, John's leaving. It was pretty much the same thing. Everybody's like, all the work is happening in LA because, you know, Babyface had music out and acts out, and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis had acts out, and you know, and they're building their labels and all this stuff. And it just seemed to be so much more exciting in LA, and the weather was better.
The weather was better, and at the time the rent was cheaper.
That part. Well, you know what? I lived with my family in Mount Vernon, so I didn't really have to worry about rent. But I did have a car, so my car note, you know, I did have. But at the same time, it was like I couldn't stand lugging equipment in those winters.
Listen, I'm from Chicago. You don't tell me anything about winter.
Right.
I am
that was a windy city.
I don't even know how we did that. I don't know how we did it. It's like we lived in the 20th century, now the 21st. Technology has not. Where are the heated sidewalks?
You know,
where are the heat lamps at the bus stop?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, why do people live here? Why do people, you know,
it's brutal.
It's brutal. Pouring boiling water on your car lock to unlock it. Why? Why? The salt on the sidewalk. Why? Yeah. And how many broken bones? How many? It was always that kid in the neighborhood that would fall and break their arm.
Yeah.
On the slip. Oh, I slipped. Yeah. You know, somebody would always get a broken hip. You know, Grandma Edna always get it. Oh my gosh, it was just too much. Why do we do that? Oh, but I love it here.
I don't know.
Our family's here. No.
I know. Well, you didn't live anywhere else. Maybe that's what it is. When you go somewhere else and you're like, oh.
Look, my whole family ended up moving out here with me.
I bet they did. Like, we don't have to live like pioneer people.
All right. Right. They're like, wait, we got a place to go to. I had somebody came and visited me in February and did not leave till April.
Okay, that's a long time.
That's a long time. And I was like, wait, you're still here. Okay. All right. I'm done. But I was like, hey, whatever. It's warm here. But yeah, so much different life though out here in terms of and what was going on with music.
It was interesting because at that time, that was Kenny's first song. So, you do the tour and then you have all the promo stuff. So that's when the Vibe show was happening. Keenan show was happening. There were all these other shows that were happening. After Kenny, I did a tour with Brian McKnight. Mm-hmm. So then we did all those shows, Ricky Lake and Rosie O'Donnell and, just the artists that I work with at that time, like late 90s, early 2000s. There were so many shows and opportunities for people to perform. And most of those shows were filmed here.
Right. That's true.
And all of those shows are gone. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know what do they, any of those shows do they shoot here? I don't know.
Yeah, all of them, there's nothing, they're just
Jennifer
done.
Hudson.
Jennifer Hudson is here.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry Shepherd is here.
Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer Hudson, Sherry Shepherd is here. Tamron is in New York. Mm-hmm. Wendy Williams was in New York. Yeah. David Letterman was in New York. Well, Jay Leno, we used to do in Arsenio Hall.
Tonight Show all the time. Yeah.
And then Ellen was, going on. But we used to do the Tonight Show. That was like a common show. Mm-hmm. To perform on, whether it was Jay Leno and the musicians there. We all knew the musicians. Yeah. Of course, Arsenio Hall was another one that I think I was on Arsenio Hall around 94, 95.
Yeah, I didn't get to do that one.
Yeah, I did that with MC Hammer, Pumps and a Bump. Pumps and a Bump. Pumps and a Bump.
I did catch the end of Soul Train, though.
Oh, you did Soul Train?
Got to do that
I
one.
never got to do Soul Train. Get out. Was that with Kenny?
That was with Deborah Cox.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. And then the music was kind of changing. Yeah. It was like really changing. I found LA to be distinctly different than New York, in terms of the music, because New York had so much more. It was grittier, it was dance, it was New Jack Swing. That was what was really big, Keith Sweat. There weren't a lot of big female acts though, huh? On the East Coast, besides Mary J. Blige.
Well, and Faith
Evans, Mary J. Blige. They were like the two basically women, and then everything else was like Guy, Today, Belle Biv DeVoe, New Edition. Yeah. There are those acts, and then here on the East Coast you still had Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey.
Right.
So those were like the big ones in that era. And then here, though, it just seemed to be a different energy. I found, was it just me just thinking that?
Well, once I came here, I wasn't spending a lot of time in New York anymore.
Right.
So I can't even compare. I don't know really what was going on there.
Right.
Because I wasn't there.
Because you wasn't there.
Anymore.
Right. You weren't there. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm just also looking in terms of the musicians and the bands, what was going on and the musicians who were being hired. Because you would have the people who were contract on the East Coast, and you have the people who are contracting here. Mm-hmm. But it just seemed like the bands were bigger on the West Coast than the East Coast. It seemed I don't know. I had Kenneth Crouch in, and we were talking about budget. Budget. It seems like there was budget here.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right. Because it seemed to me that the bands on the East Coast were maybe a bit more contained, but you would come here and you get like the two keyboards, you would get the horns, it was more of a show.
Yeah.
It was more of a complete show.
That's interesting.
Is that just me, or?
It's not just you, but like I said, once I moved here and then I was touring and all that, I really didn't spend that much time there.
Right.
And I really wasn't plugged in there.
Right.
And what's so crazy, I just started thinking about, 96, I said it was pivotal because my father had passed away the year before, right around the end of that tour. my mom was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And then I met Tim.
Wow.
And so I was going around in a circle. Chicago, New York, LA. Chicago, New York, LA. Because I hadn't really moved yet from New York.
Right.
And I was trying to figure out, well, do I need to move to Chicago? Do I move to LA? What do I do? So I just kept going around in a circle. And then I was touring. So on the breaks, I was going around in that circle for a while. Yeah.
No, I get it, because that's the thing. People don't realize how life can really get in the way of everything you're doing, and then you have to keep maintaining. Life keeps lifing.
Yeah, it does.
Life keeps lifing. So you're going around in the circle, and then, but after you're getting settled at some point, and you're settling into other jobs musically and more and more. So what are some of the other ones that you were beginning to perform with?
So I did Kenny's tour, Brian McKnight's tour, then I did Eric Clapton. Somewhere in there, I met Ricky Minor, and my first job with him was on that show Motown Live.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great show.
Yeah.
That was a really good show. I don't know why that went away. That was a really, really good one. And then just other thing, you sing a demo here. Then I started like writing with people and just spreading my little musical wings.
Spread my musical wings. That's what I do. Spread my musical wings.
And in the middle of all that, doing demos and trying to get a deal and,
Right.
all of that. So, and then still going back and forth to Chicago. I wasn't going back and forth to New York anymore, but still, going back and forth to Chicago.
Yeah.
I sang with Mandy Moore, and then she was traveling. She was big in Asia.